This is Ocean Wings, where manta ray magic leads to meaningful change. Hosted by me, ocean advocate Martina Wing, join us as we explore how nature can reconnect us to what really matters in life. Together, let's dive into how each of us can truly make a difference at this critical time for the environment and our world, and how we can transform awe and wonder into action, conservation, courage, healing, and purpose. Welcome and aloha to another conversation on the Ocean Wings podcast. Today, I'm really blessed to have Christopher Gorman on the podcast, and we want to dive a little deeper into how he travels and what the listener might be taking from his experience in all over the world. Welcome, Chris, to our Ocean Wings podcast, and how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Christopher is a former guest of us. He joined our tour in Manta Swim in December of 2024. And sometimes I have more time to talk to people, sometimes less time. Things are happening pretty fast. But in our case, something sparked a conversation for, 30 minutes or something like that. And a few things stood out. And one of the things was that I'm surrounded by the ocean. And you are coming from a landlocked state. Actually, you're in the most landlocked state of the United States. So tell us where you come from, where do you live, and what do you do?
Yeah. So I live in Nebraska, which, like you said, is the most landlocked state inside the United States. Not only is it landlocked, sometimes we get the moniker of the flyover state because people think there's not a lot happening here in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife, we've chosen to stay in Nebraska. We really like it here, and we've done a good job of finding the really special things about Nebraska. That being said, we do love traveling. So we do like to experience other things, other cultures, and it's taken us really all over the country, and to some really cool places across the world as well. But so we live in Nebraska. I'm in marketing, and so I'm a senior vice president for a company here in Nebraska called Herdat. So we're a media marketing entertainment agency. We do marketing for businesses. We own a couple of restaurants. We have a full sports division and entertainment division. We do a lot of video work, and then podcasting, which is what we started talking to you about. Because when we visited you last year, this was something that you'd been considering doing and talking about doing a podcast. And yeah, here we are, almost exactly a year later, and we're doing the podcast. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if I have this really specialized field that I filled with my own, I guess, skills and talents to do this business for 27 years now, but it's highly specialized, right? I mean, many people have an ocean recreation business, but I'm really drilled it down to manta rays. And there's only one place in the world where you can do the manta swim as it is on the Kona coast. It's the west coast of the Big Island. And that's why I had the idea of the podcast, doing something, because that's the new world, I guess, how to consume information. And what I feel is podcasting, you can find real experts in the field and just listen to them. You get really more insights to what's going on versus all the social media posts from folks or blogs of travelers that do things one time, and that was really a draw for me to be podcasting. And then I meet you as a guest, and I want to ask you the questions, what you remember when you came back from the manta swim. But one of the things, I had the idea to do a podcast, and then I meet a guest who is in the field or in the space of helping people to do podcasting. So it was really bing, kind of this connection there. And I really, really enjoyed that. So the question, what do you remember of meeting manta rays? Did it really touch your heart? That's what I usually say. Share with us.
Yeah. So so at the end of the year last year, it was kind of a stressful time for my wife and I. We were going through she was going through a job change. We were coming up on, just being married for a little while, and I know we were trying to figure out who we are and where we want to go and what we want to do with our lives now that we're married. And we'd been to Hawaii several times. We've been to the Big Island once before, explored kind of Kona, went over Hilo side, and like there's something about Hawaiian culture that really resonated with us. Like all the times we've been there, the sustainability, the Aloha Spirit. My best friend and our wedding officiant, her name is Milani, and she's from the Big Island originally, but she moved to Nebraska, and she's just a brilliant entrepreneur.
Hmm.
But the first time we ever went to Hawaii was with her. So we were with a local. And so instead of doing, the very like touristy things and the things that, people tell you to do, we really got to experience Hawaii through her eyes. And we met her family and we went to the restaurants that like local Hawaiians go to. One of the coolest experiences was seeing her. We were going out to the ocean. We didn't have any snorkel gear. And there was a local that was selling snorkel gear. So she negotiated snorkel gear for us in Pigeon, which is like, because you hear Pigeon and it kind of sounds like English and you can pick out like a couple words, but it's its own beautiful language. So we've been to Hawaii several times, and just always loved just the energy, like even the simple things, like getting off the plane and like seeing the colors and the smells. Like there's so much like fauna there that you don't find anywhere else in the world. And then like the ocean. In Nebraska, we have rivers, which are really cool. But you're kind of at the mercy of like if it's a high river, low river, if it's it's wild. And we do a thing in Nebraska called like tubing or tanking. And tanking is like a big thing where you get like a big horse trough and you put your cooler of beer in the middle of it and you float down the river and you have a car at the end and the car at the beginning and you run them back. But just nothing like the ocean. Like there's something really special about the ocean. That we've always loved, from like a sunset to we got scuba certified right before our honeymoon. And like that's a whole different experience to be able to experience like the ocean from underneath when it's very calm. Like, and you get to interact with, animals that you don't really get to see. Um, so last year when we were both like, dealing with some like life stress, we wanted to go to a place that, you know, it's very calm. It's like there's nobody more chill than Hawaiians. And we love the culture, the food, everything over there. We love learning about like Hawaiian culture. So it's like, all right, this will be the least stressful place that we can go to. We won't run into anybody that we know. Like the time difference is great because like emails and all that, like they come in like different times. So we spent a week on the Big Island and we spent a week on Kauai. And so the week with you guys, we were trying to do like the most like relaxing things that we could. We were trying to stay off of our phones. We were trying to stay disconnected from like email and like laptops and all like TV. Like we were really trying to have just as much of a disconnected experience as we could. we'd always we always wanted to swim with mantas. It was a thing that was on our bucket list, and I mean, we spent a really long time trying to figure out where to go and try to find like really responsible operators.
We have 60 companies on the coastline offering the same tour. It might be even more than that. And then when you as the consumer try to find something, there might be also a third party in between that is not
Hmm.
activity provider physically doing the work. There's also people that sell for other companies.
Hmm.
So I call it a jungle, trying to figure out who to go with, right? As the consumer, as the customer. And so please continue. I'm just wanting to make sure the listener knows it's not an easy landscape to find a company that works or feels right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it's especially if you're a tourist, especially if you're like on the islands for the first time, like it is hard to know who's a responsible operator, especially when you're looking. It's really easy to look and say like, oh, like these folks are the cheapest. We should definitely go with them. But when you're looking at it, especially like some of those operators that like take you kind of far out in the ocean, there's some additional skills that you need to have out there and the experience. We always appreciate when there's a story behind who the operators are, and also if there's a conservation side to it, because me and my wife we're kind of hippies and like animal entertainment generally isn't something that we enjoy. Like if it's like a circus, or if it's like a small zoo where there isn't like a rehabilitation part of the zoo, if it is just animal entertainment, we're not really about that. But your story and how you care for the mantas and how you interact with the mantas, that is what honestly attracted us to you guys. And it was everything that it's everything that we wanted and needed at that time. Like, because your facility is beautiful. Like, it's wrapped around this 5-star hotel experience. So it's like just coming in, we had free parking and we were able to go and, we sat and watched the sunset out there right before our Manta experience. And it was just beautiful. And then, so the whole Manta experience, again, it's something that we haven't done. We've done scuba a little bit. We're both scuba certified. We scubaed during our honeymoon. We scubaed on a cruise. And you get to see some fish and, some sharks and some turtles and all that, but nothing like the size and scale of the mantas. And the fact that it was like a really small group of us that went out, it meant that we had more time to be out there, and there wasn't somebody out there that was trying to manage like 16 people that are like on a boat. It was really just us and the mantas out there. So, we watch our sunset and then, we swim out, which is also a bonus, like not having to get on a boat and, go out like pretty far. It was really cool to be able to swim out. And like I don't think my wife or I were really like prepared for like they're much bigger than you think they are. And then just how friendly like they seemed like in the water. So, we had
I think of them as trusting, not friendly, but trusting. They show their most vulnerable side to you when they do these flips in front of you, right? So it's a wild animal trusts that nothing will interfere what they're trying to accomplish, which is feeding around the lights where the plankton is drawn to at night. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, but it's a common thing people say. I don't think I was really prepared for what I then experienced, so mm.
Yeah, when brought out the light and we saw them kind of like scuttling across the bottom and it seemed like they're like, trying to figure out like, oh, hey, it's feeding time. But with as soon as they saw the light and they started doing their loops, we're like, oh, this is real. Like, because they were coming like right up below us. And we're always very respectful of like animals, like especially like when we're hiking, like we don't try to interfere with any animals. Like we always, especially in like national parks, we abide by rules. We stay 100 yards away. Like we're not trying to get up there with our cameras or anything. And so we were very respectful of the mantas and like, hey, like, because I'm sure people like reach out and they like try to touch them and give them a little pet or whatever. But we stayed very still and very like on the top of the water. But one of the mantas, I felt like it gave me a high five because it like kind of kicked me, like it just hit my knee with one of his wings, and I thought that was so cool. I'm like, oh, like he was trusting enough to like give me a high five even though he knows exactly where I am. He knows exactly how to navigate these waters, but it felt like we were down there forever and not in like a boring way. It just seemed like time just stopped while we were there. And we were just watching this like beautiful dance that felt like choreographed happen underneath us. And I mean, it's one of the only things that I can really remember from that trip is like, hey, we had this really cool experience with another animal. We're an animal, they're an animal, and like we coexisted in their space that's not our space. But it was honestly like a really magical experience that we had that we weren't expecting it to be that heavy.
Hmm. Yeah, I really like that how you say we coexisted. It's one of the
Yeah.
few I speak specifically about ocean recreation activities, right? Where not food is brought to the situation. As, for example, Stingray City in the Grand Cayman Islands. They bring food so the stingrays come in. But in our case, it is about the plankton is either there or not, and it depends on the upwellings and currents. And then the light attracts that plankton when it's dark ocean. You cannot do that during the day. But then the manta rays, that's the special thing that's happened here on the coastline, that they're classical conditioned. So then they come to the lights, and as you as a human, as tour, stay in passive interaction, it is possible to coexist, and it's sustainable. I mean, the plankton would have been eaten anyway, so I can tell you that. The manta rays would not die if the lights are not on, because we would say we starve them of plankton. We have many, I could tell story after story where I can make the point. It's like the manta are not dependent on a light at night for 4 or 5 hours for survival. And so this word of coexisting, it ties into sustainable. That is my approach to my work, always been do no harm, right? See, everybody gets something out of it. And in this case with the manta rays, it is, I think the manta rays get food. What a great concept. But our guests, and you were really great example for, it really impacted you. And I think most guests, when they see a manta ray, are like, I didn't expect it this way. You can see videos, but then an emotional journey that goes through you from like, I'm not so sure about this thing. I'm entering the ocean at night, the big fish in front of me. And then you leave and you're like, wow, that was really cool, So yeah, I like this before and after concept. So
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we went up to the restaurant right afterwards, which again, you're wrapped inside this beautiful resort. And so yeah, we had dinner up there and it was just lovely. And like we just sat there for, I mean, a couple of hours just talking about like this experience that we had and how lucky we were to find them there and to see them in their natural environment. Like you're talking about like the Stingray City, or there's other folks who do these like dolphin experiences, and it just, yeah, it just always feels like not great. Like we're huge supporters of national parks. I think we've been to about 30 of them, and we have a real deep understanding that like, hey, this is not our house. Like this is not our home. This is their home. So trying to make them feel as comfortable as they can, and then getting really like upset if there's like tourists that are out there that are like leaving trash or being loud or have like a Bluetooth speaker as they're like doing their hiking. So we're always trying to be like good proponents of like nature, because like once that's gone, like it's gone. So we try to do what we can to protect it.
Yeah, yeah. That ties beautiful into something you mentioned before we start the recording. You consider yourself a serial researcher. I love
Hmm.
that. And and this conversation is about for the folks that maybe don't travel that much, but are really keen on, maybe you live in Nebraska as well, landlocked, and you want to visit a place that is surrounded by water. Could be Hawaii, but there are many other beautiful exotic places you can travel to. But I would like to dive a little deeper into how do you approach this serial research to find things? Because you had mentioned that you've been to Hawaii several times, and the first time you did the touristy stuff, right? But then you developed more of a system for yourself, so that you travel is more satisfying for you, and at the same time it's sustainable. So if you can maybe tell us a little bit about the journey, that how you went from like touristy stuff on the first trip and then you went to how do you approach it today?
Yeah. So I think whenever you go somewhere for the first time, you kind of owe it to yourself. It's like, all right, these places are famous for some reason. We should go see it. If you go to Las Vegas, like, and you miss the strip, like you'd be doing yourself a disservice. If you go to Chicago and you don't get a slice of like Chicago deep dish pizza, like you'd be doing yourself a disservice. And the same thing with Hawaii. Like it was our first time. And so um, we did Waikiki and we did Diamond Head and we did North Shore, like all the things that like you want to like check some boxes. Yeah.
That's the island of Oahu. Just to give a little bit of, for the traveler who's never been to islands, there are 132 islands, but 5 are inhabited. And the one with the most people is Oahu, and there's Honolulu. That's where Waikiki Beach is, a lot of high rises. And there's the North Shore where we have in the winter, the big, big waves and the competitions, the surf competitions. There's also Kauai and Maui. Molokai is really small and not very discovered, and it's the good thing. And then there's the Big Island. And in proportion, the Big Island, all other islands fill twice the Big Island. So it's really a different feel of what you can do on our island versus the big city Honolulu. And so just wanted to inject that for a moment. So Oahu was your first stop, right?
Yep. Oahu. Yeah. That was our first stop. And we've been we've been to Oahu, Big Island, Maui, Kauai, and also Lanai.
Oh,
Like
Lanai.
we
Yes.
did,
Yes.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
We love cats. So there's a Lanai cat sanctuary over in Lanai. So we took a little boat over there because it's really interesting because they had native birds there that used to nest on the ground and they'd lay their eggs there. And they had all somebody brought over some cats and they were eating all these eggs. So they made this like beautiful sanctuary for all these cats. So we did a little day trip over there.
From Maui, you go over to Lanai and then you come back and it's a boat trip, correct? It's not like you fly into Lanai. That's right.
Yeah, it was a little boat. And it's funny, like, just seeing the different personalities of each of the islands. And even like the islands themselves. Like, you know, Oahu is so big and so diverse. I mean, part of the island, feels like a major city with, your high rises and your restaurants and you know, there's ABC stores everywhere and you can DoorDash and all that. And then go over to like Kauai and, it's much slower and much more chill. They have a Costco, but by and large, like, they don't have the crazy infrastructure that you have over in Oahu. But yeah, so the first time, you go and you want to like check out the stuff that everybody tells you to check out. And, luckily we had our local guide to, sort of make sure that um, we were going to like really cool places, making sure we were spending our time there efficiently, not wasting our time with bad operators or like businesses that we really try to have as much of a native experience as possible because it's such a beautiful culture that's built on that aloha spirit, which we always come back with our aloha cups filled. But yeah, serial researching, like it also could be equated to like chronically online. Like we're just kind of online all the time. And especially when you're making the investment to go to Hawaii, like especially for like mainlanders, especially from Nebraska, like there's no way you're getting a direct flight there. Like it is, it's LA. And then we generally have to connect somewhere in like Denver, so getting over there, staying over there, it's a sizable investment for a lot of people, including us. So it's like, hey, if we're going to be over there for, like 7 to 10 days, like we want to like maximize as much stuff as we can. So yeah, the first time, we did Oahu and we did kind of the stuff. But we also went to a lot of places that are probably not on a lot of people's travel lists. We went to this incredible beach, and it's probably my favorite beach in Hawaii. And most people would not agree with this, but there's a beach called Sherwoods on Oahu, and it doesn't really look like any other beach that you'd find. Like there's a ton of trees. It looks almost like a little forested. Like it was just kind of our favorite place. Felt very local, very cool. And we went there the first time, fell in love with it, and then the second time we were coming there, there was a large protest that was happening there because they were trying to develop it into like some sports complexes, um, something that the like locals did not want there because it was a burial site for a lot of their ancestors. So they're like, you can't dig this up and put a parking lot there. So we joined in their protest. We heard their stories. We donated to them. We still follow them. And I think they ended up like winning, and I ended up not having that facility built there. So like it's really important for us, like just like if anybody comes to Nebraska, we want them to know like what we're dealing with here. Um, so, yeah, serial researching, like we just spend a lot of time and maybe too much, but like I always want to find the way that we can experience the most when we're going places. And that's not necessarily like, hey, we need to jam pack the schedule because that is not the Hawaiian way. Like that, I mean, that's one of the first things that people have to learn when they get over there is island time, especially like in Nebraska, and especially in like corporate, like everything is on the dot and it is quick and it is, hey, I'm trying to like get the thing that I need done and I'm moving on to the next. Um, and one of the reasons why we visited you last year is like we needed time to slow down. Like we needed to not be on a schedule. We needed to not have all these crazy deadlines. We needed to be on island time for a couple weeks. But yeah, when we were there, like we really wanted to find experiences that we were going to carry for a lifetime with responsible people. And that, that obviously led us to you, and one of the coolest things that happened on that trip. But like as you're traveling, there's a point of like diminishing returns on research, because you can like research too much where you're like, I know everything about what I'm going to go see. That's not fun. Like movies, I do not watch trailers anymore for movies because I feel like they give away so much of like the plot and like, who the like big bad guy is. And but we wanted to do enough research so we understand and we can appreciate what we're going to see so we can enjoy it more. Especially with the mantas, like we really wanted to find a cool experience that, had conservation like in your core values, and something that was like planning on keeping this around there forever. So like a lot of them that we looked at, it seemed more like of a party, and it seemed, I can always tell like if people are like really banging the drum about why you should do business with them is based on price, it's probably like not the best situation. And you obviously, like, you weren't the cheapest. We got our money's worth. Absolutely. Every penny, we're like, this is amazing. This is exactly what we were looking for. But the whole experience, if you looked at it, there might be somebody that's 20, 40, $50 cheaper than you, but it's not wrapped around by a beautiful resort. It doesn't have experts that know like exactly what they're doing. They don't have the swim out where you're like, hey, we know these mantas and they know us. These are our friends, these are our family, and we're going to introduce you to them. Versus like, hey, we're going to go out. We might see them, we might not. But yeah, the experience was like exactly what we needed at the exact time that we did, and like per our research, like that's how we landed on you and had this beautiful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great information. I wanted to drill a little bit down into this. You kind of mentioned you can overdo the research. Wanted to go a little bit into the review system that are available to the traveler, all the like TripAdvisor and Yelp. And I think there are about 12, 15 years now that people can review. Some businesses have tens of thousands of reviews, and you get the 1 to 5 star ratings. I have 2 or 3 bad ones too, but I'm always curious how the traveler sees those reviews, and how you read through those. Because I think for the traveler that goes to places, we have to put the review system that is online available. I think there are Facebook groups too. There are questions asked in travel groups, and then a slew of commentary on stuff like that. But how do you approach that? How do you filter? You need to filter for yourself. What do you take from that?
Yeah. Okay. So for the business, like our marketing agency, um, reviews are really important. There is, I'll never remember the stat, but for every tenth of a point, 4 out of 5 stars, there's an equal correlation to revenue. And as those points drop, like you can actually directly correlate it to like how much money the business is making. Now, that being said, there are businesses that have, found ways to generate a lot of reviews. And I'm not saying they're not real, but they've definitely incentivized people to give them 5 star reviews. There are vendors out there, and not really in your industry, maybe in your industry, but um, there's a lot of like service-based industries. Like I won't name any names, but we had to sign a contract during during the wedding where it said that we were not allowed to leave anything less than a 5 star review for this business unless we directly contacted them and they had the ability to cure whatever issue that we had. And I mean, it was pretty aggressive where they could have taken like legal action if we would have said, hey, 3 stars, they didn't do this, this, and this that well, but they did this well. So there's definitely like, I have to take reviews with a grain of salt, especially anything that's like a 5 star that doesn't have a lot of information on it, and definitely a 1 star. I read 1 stars, and part of my serial researching is like I can figure out, like read between the lines, like, oh, this person didn't understand what they were signing up for, or they did something that was like completely like inappropriate for the situation. Like if somebody showed up drunk to like a manta ray experience, if they've been drinking all day out by the beach and then like, hey, this is not going to be great for you. So I can always tell. So when I'm looking at review sites, I'm generally looking in that middle ground, that like 2 to 4 stars, because that's where you're going to find what's happening. And I generally gravitate towards ones with a lot of context. Like, because if I see like me and my 7 kids showed up for this and like this happened, like, hey, that's not me. That's not the experience I'm trying to have. But if it's something that's like me and my wife did this and it was really great and we love this, that's what I'm going to look for. So I look at reviews a little bit. I know that folks are incentivized to do it. There's also just like people leave reviews when they're like extremely happy or they're extremely upset. So you just kind of have to read between the lines. Where I look for more information, and I think for you, like your reviews were great, but I think there was some information on Reddit that we
Right.
found,
That's right.
and it was real people, and I can tell that like, hey, they've been on the site for a while. I can tell that they're commenting and engaging in different like subreddits that are like, their ocean or their conservation or the locals. So there are other people that were commenting like, oh, Martina does this really well. Don't go to this place. This is not the experience that you want. Like, so when you look at the entire body of work between, all right, reviews are good. Reddit, there's a lot of people that are saying really good things and giving great information about it. I look at YouTube. I try to find information on there. If anybody's like posted like, hey, I got my GoPro footage back from my experience and I posted it. I look at social media. I see who's tagging like you guys and like who's tagging in the area, and I look at their content. So like when you have like that whole body of work, that's really how we can make a decision. So the reviews, if they're robust and it's like, hey, this is a real experience that I can identify with, then I'm going to pay attention to it. There's a ton of people that just love to say like we have 10,000 reviews like on our business, and then I know that I'm getting a sales pitch at the end of that. Be like, hey, like if you really liked your experience, I get $100 if you leave a 5-star review and you leave my name. And that's kind of against what you're really not supposed to entice people to leave your review, especially with anything monetary. So it kind of deflates how serious you can take some of those reviews. But with your reviews, I like the fact that you aren't pressing us, or there's not a giant QR code on your shack that says like, leave us a 5-star review right now and whatever. Because those are real people that
I actually try to hide that because the industry is so big, and I would like to have the customer that does his own or her own research. That is a much better informed customer to join my tour, because it is a specialized tour. You need to know how to swim and you need to know how to have snorkeled in the ocean. And we do get the calls where the customer says, well, I don't know how to swim. Can I join? I'm like, no. He's like, go away. I mean, I say that nicely, but
yeah.
it's my reaction in the sense of like, I don't advertise at all, never done it. As a videographer, when we had the business just selling videos on the boats, the customers were there because the boat operators got the customers on the boat and I sold the video. There was no marketing needed from a business aspect, right? But once we left the videography behind or retired from it and then turned into an operator, that's 10 years ago, we intentionally said, no, let's build step by step. And it started with one group a week and 2 times a week, or build up, and then 2 groups a night, and it built up to 7 days now, 7 nights now. And a whole crew that services people and dedicated and well trained. It's another aspect of our ocean recreation that a traveler should look for. Questions like how well is your crew trained? And there's a lot of, if you live on a Hawaiian or in the islands, could be Hawaii, could be other places too, but we are the most remote chain of islands in the world, right? There's a lot of water around us. And it's hard to make a living here. And so there's a lot of transient workforce. People come and people go. And people want to live their dream in Hawaii and want to work on a boat. But that does not translate that you make enough of a living, to make it work for you here. So then people leave after 6 or 12 months. and then new crew comes in, and that's the really hard part also for a small business owner to upkeep your safety standards that you set out for the customer, but you have to provide that as for the crew, that the crew is trained well to keep the people safe. I mean, the tour itself is actually easy. You're laying flat on the surface, have a mask on, and you breathe. Sounds really easy, right? But it's at night, it's in the ocean, and that big fish is in front of you. So the more people are prepared and refreshed on their skills, the more I love the customer. I have to say that very honestly, because everything operational wise runs smoother. You know, I always have to take a step back when a guest says, "I snorkeled once, and that was 10 years ago." Like, don't use us as a refresher course, right? We like do it during the day. Find another way to refresh, right? And so, for the traveler the listener that is maybe coming sometime soon to the islands, I think that's good information. And have any robust skills to enter the ocean in the first place. Do not underestimate the Pacific Ocean. It's a big body of water and it can change fast. I always recommend to go on beaches with lifeguards first. Test the waters literally. Don't turn your back on the ocean. Literally, the waves can come. You don't see them coming. Yeah, look through the lens of safety when you enter the ocean. So,
Yeah, we loved your spot because we got there early and we sat on the beach and we enjoyed the sunset. And I was telling one of my friends, one of our other podcasters, who's can I come see you here in a couple weeks? And he was really nervous about the swim out. He was saying, like, hey, like my kids are, they just might not be a strong enough swimmer to like get out there. And what they were thinking about is like the long beach where you're seeing waves like just crashing in. And be like, it's not that. Like it's this beautiful little like cove that's protected on both sides. And so it was a really relaxing swim, like out there. And then, it was, 30, 45 minutes out there with the rays. And then it was just a very gentle swim back. And then, we're able to have dinner right afterwards. Yeah. So for people that, have some snorkel experience, even if it's like, that week is their refresher,
that's fine.
being able to go out there, I think it's a really comfortable swim out there. And just the equipment that you had and your staff that was so well prepared and like really made it fun for us. And then getting the GoPro videos afterwards, like I love making social media content. I can't do that while I'm trying to, enjoy the mantas,
Yes.
hold the light and all of that. To be able to get the GoPro footage afterwards was awesome because then we were able to, share with our friends this magical experience that we had, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I wanted to tie in one more thing, which is Hawaiian Islands, indigenous people, Hawaiians, and how they figured out the sustainability that is one of my favorite words. Live your life and always look through a sustainable angle, right? If you can do that, I think you can do a lot of meaningful change in the world, right? I hope that when people see manta rays, that it's even more crystallizes for people. We have to work sustainably with our planet. And we had mentioned before the Aloha Spirit that draws you to Hawaii. You knew when you come to the Hawaiian Islands, it's going to be it's going to be away from the noise. I can find that place. Well, here on the Big Island, because it's a big island, it's really easy to find a quiet place. If you go to Waikiki, there's quiet places too, but it's a lot more people, more dense environment of humans. But Hawaiian Islands, the Aloha Spirit, there's something really special about it. But I wanted to tie it into the sustainability aspect, all indigenous cultures. They figured it out. We can only use so many resources that are available, and we cannot only take. There has to be giving back. So I wanted to get your take on that too, as a traveler, how you find what your approach is there, or how you really tie it together for yourself that you feel like I'm making meaningful change because I look at this through the lens of the indigenous cultures.
Hmm. Yeah. So we come we come from Nebraska. And these lands were settled by Native Americans, so Indians, and one of their core tenets, which it was use all of the buffalo. So if you're gonna hunt a buffalo, you're not just going to like take some meat. You're not gonna just take like some hide. You're gonna find a way to use every part of the buffalo. And there's a lot of that like in the Hawaiian Islands as well, where it's like, especially, I mean, you were mentioning like how remote you guys are. There's not boats that are coming every week. When those islands were being settled for new like new supplies.
That's right.
Um, so like they had to be extremely efficient with all the resources that they had on the islands. Whether that was trees, whether it was fruit, whether it was animals, and they just the culture around sustainability. It wasn't something somebody was forcing them to do. It was like it was their way of life.
Survival. Survival
It's
too,
it's
right?
survival. And you've heard plenty of stories of cultures that just decimated their natural surroundings and they didn't last much longer. For any listeners, if you haven't been to Hawaii or you haven't looked at it on a map in a while, I mean, like just pull it up on Google Maps, on like Google Earth. It is amazing that anybody found it and built this beautiful culture and it's sustained for like all these years. And that's what we really loved about it, is just that like the perseverance of the Hawaiian people, the ability to like make this life, this ability to like make this beautiful culture, that still exists and permeates American culture today. It's just something that like always resonated with us. I mean, I'm in my office right now and I'm looking at a bunch of kukui nuts that have celebrated the biggest moments in my life, like my wedding. Like I got like a business award a few years ago, and like they've always been celebrated with kukui nuts. uh and I'm looking at, I mean, shoot, we visited the Talk Story bookstore in Kauai, and like this is like right by my office. And I feel like if there was just more of that like Hawaiian aloha spirit in this world, I think we would all be a little better. Because especially in like Nebraska, like, okay, so we just moved cities. We don't have all of our stuff set up yet. And so we've had to, like DoorDash or Uber Eats like a handful of times. And we Uber Eats the other night, and just the amount of plastic was like mind boggling, because everything, every individual, every little ketchup thing was its own plastic, and all the plastic forks and every little plastic thing and all the sides on that. And every time we visit Hawaii, we get a little more tuned into the planet. And we're like, we need to not be living like this. Because it's interesting. We always have like different rules for ourselves, like when we're in Hawaii. It's very rarely are we using anything that's like single use. We're really cautious about like where our recycling is going. It just feels more important over there. And it really shouldn't. I mean, it should feel the exact same everywhere you go, but like something over there, there's just a heightened sense of responsibility to take care of this land, especially as a tourist and a visitor. Same thing with the national parks. Like, this is not our house. These are not our islands. We are allowed to visit these and we better respect them. Otherwise, like they will not be available to us forever. We've always loved the Aloha Spirit. The people over there, Nebraskans, like it's in one of our slogans, but like Nebraska nice is a thing. Um, we don't really have a lot of professional sports around us. We have college football, college volleyball, and every time people come in to like play Nebraska's teams, the one thing they always leave with is like how nice the people were, how welcoming the like fans were. And that's what it feels like in Hawaii, where it's like, hey, we're glad you're here, respect our lands, and like we'll be totally fine. But we've just always loved the people, the culture, and like obviously, like I showed you what outside of Nebraska looks like right now. From now until March, I mean, it's just going to be gray, cold, and then we have a blizzard coming this weekend. And there's nothing I would love more than to be jumping on a flight like back to Hawaii, where there's like colors and smells and sounds, all these like things that we love. But yeah, Hawaii just like hold a really special place in our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a destination that is really really special for most people that you talk to, and aloha, it doesn't only mean it's a greeting, it's actually a lifestyle. And it is, if you live here for a while, you really, it is with you, and then your job is actually to bring more aloha spirit to others, but never forget, it's not just being nice, it is also being sustainable. And there's a word in Hawaiian, it's pono. Do it right, do things right. And then back to the sustainability aspect of indigenous cultures, do it right, do it that everything can thrive, not just we as humans, but the environment, the animals, everybody. And I think this is a beautiful ending. I hope for the listener who came all the way to the end of this recording, that you can have some takeaways, how to travel, be a serial researcher, and how to read reviews, and how this can enhance your travels and your experience. And maybe I see you as well. And if so, let me know if Chris and my conversation helped you make decisions. So Chris, thank you for joining me today. And I hope you come back one day. I think you have been several times to Hawaii. Maybe you will come back sometime soon. So thank you, and aloha to everybody.
Aloha. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Ocean Wings. If this episode moved you, inspired you, or made you think, please follow and share it with someone who cares about conservation and making meaningful change. Want to learn more or experience the magic of manta rays? Get in touch at oceanwingspodcast.com and subscribe to our emails for more stories from the ocean. Tune in next week for another episode. Until then, keep swimming with purpose. Aloha.